We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will a roll call, please?
Councilmember Waller?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Miller? Mayor Dees?
Yes. Citizen comments. If anyone would like to speak, you may do so. We'll take turns, please. Take turns, please. Hi, Sid.
Hello, my name is Sydney Bauer. I just wanted to remind you all that the next city council meeting afterwards is going to be the next Morris Model meeting. So if there's anything that you're thinking about, or you want to think about, or talk about, or hear from at that meeting, just let me know. We can make that happen. But just a reminder.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gail Hockert, and I'm a resident of Morris.
I'm Peter Kelly, also president.
And we're here, we're probably out of the wrong agenda area, but we're here to request an outdoor skating rink. For the last 2 years, we've been searching frantically for one, and there isn't. And
Right.
so we've talked to other parents, and they would like it too. I'm passing around some of the reasons they gave for why we need one. And like some people think, well, the League Community Center, they could skate there, but in reality, they really can't. It's all hockey, hockey, hockey. 2 nights a week, there is open skate, and it's way too late for that age. So they never get to learn how to ice skate in Minnesota. And the other reason is, I think before it used to be at Wells Park, because the parents would tell me, well, I don't feel comfortable dropping my child off over there. There's no place to go if they get cold, because there's no warming house, but that's okay, that's not why I'm here. And there just isn't a lot of people over there, so if something would happen, they just don't feel comfortable. Whereas someplace like Eastside Park, they would feel a lot better. The kids could walk to the library, they could walk downtown, they could be warm. And so we feel it would be used much more than it possibly maybe was in the past, if that's a reason, and I don't even know if it is.
Yeah, I guess I don't have too much to add to it. I just feel like it'd be an opportunity to maybe for the parts of the community to connect that don't, and I think it would be, just kind of a really cool old-fashioned way for people to get together. And I know there is maybe some liability and some risk and I don't know if maybe proper signage is all that's required for that, or I'm no expert on that. So we're just here to present our idea, and so we have some of the community behind us. So
And my argument would be that we've had it here for decades and decades. I was here, we had it. My kids were here, they had it. I would love for my granddaughter to have it also. And do you guys have any questions for us? No? Okay, thank you for listening.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Well, we have run Eastside Park. Eastside Park. There was a warming house there. I used to skate with that.
We did put up an outdoor try a couple times connected to the hockey arena because then they could have the Zamboni there. But I think what happened was that it just got warm too often and to keep it up. So I know there was one they tried out there for several years to have one because then they would
Right. There's
Zamboni.
turned into a horse arena and kind of stayed there.
Yeah. Well,
I think.
it was off to where the parking is. I don't think the horse, it was just right outside of the
Really?
arena. Yeah. Because they thought they could use it for a practice arena as well, but then to keep it open.
Wasn't it where that outdoor horse
that
arena
that
is?
also?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's as big as the Lee Center right beside it,
Right next to it, okay.
or almost as big. It's pretty big.
Yeah, there used to be rinks.
Used to be a rink right
over
there.
by Lake Crystal. There's a rink by
Little high
the
school.
tennis courts, where the tennis courts are. The issue is global warming.
Maintenance.
You can't keep ice. So a lot of communities have gone away from outdoor ice arenas because about the time you get the ice put down and it warms up, I mean, we've seen Januaries where it's 50, 60 degrees. The one, what was it, 2 years ago on Christmas, it was pouring rain. Absolutely pouring rain. And so what happens is you can't keep ice anymore. And so everybody went to indoor ice arenas. you know, so they could actually play hockey, high school hockey and stuff like that. That's really the main reason why a lot of them went away.
But there's still communities that invest or put time and effort into an outdoor arena because of the issues that were brought up, because there's not a lot of, like, right after school time. So, I mean, I don't know. The warming has to do with, yeah, if you can keep ice on, but.
Right.
Yeah, I guess, you know, she brings up some very good points, of course, but again, gets right back to, you know, who's gonna maintain it? Is it city park, I guess, I suppose, it is. City park, and, you know.
Well, one time the city actually bought, this was years ago, but it was early on in when I was on council, I think, the city actually bought a liner that would have been used, and I think it was used once or twice, but the big problem was it just didn't stay froze.
Do they still have a liner?
The last time I asked, I don't think they do. I think I think it was put out a couple times, and because of the freeze thaw, it kind of just went to heck.
Oh, yeah, that's the hard part about outdoor ice.
Yeah, if it's not just a pond, you know, that it freezes on its own.
Crystal Lake.
We have Lake Crystal, yeah. I don't know.
State park, they used to first, they had, city crew came over, sliding it down.
Well,
Quite
then.
regularly.
Well, years ago, they had the warming house and they rented skates and the whole 9 yards. Or, well, I think, I don't know if the skate was rent or free or what, I don't remember.
They were just kind of laying around.
Yeah.
Be nice to find a little pond somewhere that we could turn into something like that.
They try to do that up at the university out at Tug Lake in between Independence and Gay Hall, but the past few years it hasn't worked just because.
For the same
Right
reason.
down
The
there.
same reasons, yeah. But that's, yeah, they try to do that up there. It just doesn't work.
Once in a while, they can get it to go for a couple weeks, but.
Maybe we just need to dig a hole somewhere. Okay, any other citizen comments? Okay, we have no public hearing. We have reading and approval minutes from October 23rd.
I'll move approval of the minutes from October 23rd.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. And we have the condensed version for the paper.
Move approval of the condensed version of the minutes for October 23rd.
I will second that. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have a consent agenda consisting of audit of city bills, pay estimate number 14 for Magni Construction for the water treatment facility, October transit report. Got to pick up the pace to beat last year, I think. But and we have a gambling return from the Eagles. And I will move approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion or questions on any of the items?
Yeah, Mayor, on line item 33, East Alton's web services, that's of course the tourism, for our tourism advertising for, East Alton's web services is also known as Lakes Area Web Services. I called actually to talk to Andrea about that fee of $2,195. She thinks too that it's a little high. We have an annual fee that we pay them to host our webpage, and it's like $500 is what she recalls. So she's wondering why. She's also questioning why it's $21.95. So I guess my recommendation is that we hold off paying that bill until Andrea checks into it, unless Blaine, you know something I don't.
Well, what it
know.
is our tourism website is failed. I mean, it's missing stuff. And so the $500 is in there for the annual maintenance on it. The remaining part of that is the labor to update that website to fix the problems that are on there
Oh, okay.
right
So
now.
is
So
that-
that's what the difference is.
The board approved that then and everything? Or?
Well, I don't know that they approved it, but it needs to be, it needs to be done.
So is that like a monthly fee or just?
Annual.
No, it's just
annual?
it's a one-time fee to provide services to be able to fix up the website.
Okay.
To remake, and we've talked about this at the board, to remake the connections that aren't connected on the actual web page, and we can put it on hold, but it's been sitting out there for a while now that they've sent us information on that, you know, what they need to be able to fix that up, that website.
So whose issue is it that it's not working?
Well, when websites are very expensive, so you pay people to create them, you pay people to maintain them in the sense that they're holding them on the internet at a particular place, and that's the $500 service fee that we have for hosting the website. And then when you need to do work on them, you have to pay somebody to work on them, to fix things, add things, take stuff off. Typically, we actually have Iceberg hosting, so typically, depending on what we do with our website for the city, you know, our bill might be next to nothing, or it might be a couple $100 for the work that they're doing on it. And in this case, you know, what was provided to us was an estimate for the cost to fix up those things that we needed fixed up on our website. And I would recommend then, if you want to, you know, a motion to table it, and we can throw it back and talk about it again in the tourism board. But
Well, as long as you're confident that that's what that charge is for.
Well, that's-
And we've already agreed on it, I guess I'm okay with it.
yeah, well, that's what it is. That's
Okay.
what it came from. Now, whether or not I can talk to Andrea tomorrow again about it, because we've actually talked to Data, the other company, about they identified the same problems with our website. You know, that they found things that are on there that need to be fixed. Otherwise, it's really not productive to have that website, because, you know, things aren't linked in to where they're supposed to be linked in, and all that kind of stuff.
It just seems like we got an awful lot of stuff happening and nothing really working right. I mean, you have data marketing, you have this web service, and you have Iceberg hosting. And I don't know if initially at the tourism board, were they thinking of all three of those different options, or was there one option to look at to do all of this? Or maybe that's what needs to go back and see, because if you're gonna have a web service that's constantly having to fix something or make connections, then I don't know. I just don't
Well,
understand.
bigger cities have full-time employees that do that work for them. I would imagine the university has somebody that maintains their website for them out at the university. We have to pay consultants to do it. So when you get into web, and they're all different. I did get a chance to talk to Sue Dieter a little bit more about the services that they maybe provide locally versus, you know, other consultants that are other branches of their organization. But social media is different than digital media. It's different than web hosting. So there's companies that specialize in each one of those. And I don't know, other than going to a great big huge company that has individual departments that do all that kind of stuff, you know, and then you just pay that fee to the one big company. It's, you know, the website's different than you know, social media marketing. And, you know, we've talked about, Andrea sent me stuff back and forth on this, and, you know, suggested that, you know, these are things that need to be done to correct it, and maybe what we should do is talk one more time in the tourism board about it, and just make sure that that's the direction that we want to go. But if the website's failing, then, you know, I think at the last meeting we talked about, we do not want to go create a new website, because then you start all over, and then it's going to cost you a lot of money.
I guess the other question I have is if they're billing us for it, that I assume then that the work has been done.
Well, no, because they're telling us, if you want us to fix the website, you need to pay us.
So that
Otherwise, we're not going to touch it. That's what they're telling us
Up front.
up front.
Because
Yep.
your maintenance, basically your hosting fee of $500 doesn't include maintenance
No.
on your deal.
Nope.
Right.
So, you know,
Right.
I mean, because I would expect if you had a plan where you had maintenance, it would be more like $2,500 a year if you had unlimited maintenance to your website.
If you could get it.
If you could
If you
get it.
could get it.
Correct.
But they typically do it by the hour.
Yeah. And so, you know, so I think doubling the $500, definitely we don't want to call that maintenance, 'cause that's just to host it.
Yeah, that's the annual, that's the annual fee.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah.
But I can, if you wanna approve it, then I'll just pull the check out and then I'll talk to Andrea about it too. Otherwise, just table it and we'll pull it out before we write a check on it.
Well, I think the check needs to be written, but I do think that the questions need to be asked to make sure that the tourism board is all on board and knows what it is. But
I think they're getting just confused with thinking that $500 contains
Yeah.
the maintenance plan, which it's not. And I
Oh,
think
right.
that's so, you know, that's what hey, it's more than $500. Well, that plan doesn't include the maintenance.
Yeah, because when I talked to Andrea about it, she didn't know that she had $500 in her head, and she wasn't sure why it was $2,195. So, and she's the marketing director.
sure.
And you talked about this at the tourism board? Right?
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple different
Yeah,
times.
but I guess I don't recall what the charge was. I know it was an hourly fee, but I didn't know when you put that into a bill in the form of a bill, then all of a sudden it's a big number, or a bigger number than you think, you know. Whatever, I guess we can just, I don't know. Andrea didn't seem to think it needed to be paid right away, that's what her thought was, and she thought it should.
Yeah, so I think if you just do a motion to table that one, then we'll pull it out.
Just pull that one out.
Yep.
So that's fine. I think that's the prudent thing to do. Do we need to make that?
Yeah, just-
motion? I'll move that we pull that fee of $2,195 for the tourism for East Alton Web Services. Just table that till next time.
I second that. Any further discussion on the East Sultan's web services to table it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, any other questions or any items on, any of the items on the consent agenda?
That was all I had.
Did you see that little note on the transfer report? Top October ridership in the history of Morris Transit. So we did a lot of catch-up in October, but not gonna get there, I don't think. Okay, all in favor say aye for the consent agenda.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Ordinances and resolutions. We have resolution approving a special assessment for KJ Properties.
Yeah, I explained it in the memo here. It's the new building that's going out by the Michelson Car Wash out there. It's actually a commercial building that's gonna house the Humane Society. There's gonna be a pet groomer in there, and I think actually Kathleen Jost is gonna have a little office in there where she can do veterinary work on the animals that come in there. What she's asking for is a portion of the water and sewer connection fees be assessed back to the property for a 15-year period at 5%. That's the interest rate that we use for the North Court, South Court area. And then they paid the rest of the fees based upon what was in the memo. There's a building permit fee and a fee that goes to the state of Minnesota. So I'm recommending that the city council approve this assessment.
That's a big building.
It is.
That's pretty cool.
That's gonna be a nice little addition to that side of town, right there.
Yeah.
As you're coming into town. I'll move on that resolution and, recommending approving the, special assessment for 2 KJ properties in the amount of $4,355.15 for 15 years at 5% interest.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? We'll have a roll call on that resolution, please.
Councilmember Solly?
Yes.
Waller? Zelliston?
Yes.
Mayor Heath?
Yes. City managers report.
A couple, actually, I put the benchmarking award on the end of the table by Kevin, so that's, if you remember when, Tess and Britta came in and presented some information on the different city buildings and stuff like that. We actually received an award for the work that was done on benchmarking, and that was presented to the city, so it's kind of nice to be recognized again. Probably a couple of the big things, Sid already mentioned the Morse Model meeting coming up November 27th, and what we'd like to do is invite the student workers that work on all this stuff, so you can meet them and get a chance to find out what they do. But also, we did have the retreat at Camp Ripley, and that went very well. It was very well attended. Actually, to me, a couple of the interesting parts of that whole retreat. Number one, we had Otter Tail Power sitting right there at the table talking about what they do and, you know, how they perceive things happening moving forward, especially when you look at things like solar energy and wind energy, and their model is changing now so that they're going to start focusing more on sustainable energy. We had school reps, 2 school board members were there, and that was really nice because now you have a chance to actually get information into the school board meetings with the representatives that were there, and they have some opportunities that are there for them, especially when it comes to district heating, using the university's heating system to actually heat the school. We've been talking to the hospital about the same thing, and that's a plan that we're going to be looking at more moving forward. But it was just a good opportunity to get everybody there, get at the table. There's a couple of really good facilitators there, and Mike Reese right now is putting together a lot of the information that came out of that. But one of the purposes of that meeting was to start looking at setting goals. Where do we want to be as a city? And I think one of the most interesting things that happened after that meeting was the fact that I talked to Rebecca Young, and the county right now is dealing with solid waste management, and they're actually looking at the possibility of a organic composting site being created in the Hoffman area. And she was wondering, you know, whether or not the city's going to be interested in maybe participating in that and being part of it. And it's like, well, I think that's what our future is. You know, waste management is not necessarily finding the next hole in the ground to bury your garbage. Waste management is trying to figure out where your garbage is coming from, and by taking it and using it the best way, like recycling or organic composting, then you don't have to worry about the garbage and where it's going to go, because there's not going to be that much left. And so we had a good chance to talk about those things. Vehicles, actually we talked a little bit about the fact that we have an ethanol plant in Morris making E85 ethanol here. I mean, it doesn't get sent somewhere and blended and then brought back. It's blended here and it's sold here by farmers that are bringing in their corn to make it. And yet we have flex fuel vehicles that the city owns that we're not using E85 in. You know, and so that was an interesting discussion. And I talked a little bit with Brad this morning about that, where we do have flex fuel vehicles and they can use E85 and it's cheaper and it's better for the environment, and it doesn't harm the vehicles. Mick Miller was there, you know, as part of the plant, and, you know, talked a lot about ethanol and how you use it. So it was a really good meeting, and unfortunately it was during the week, and we know that, we understand that it's hard for council members to get there, but that information is going to be brought back to you, and we'll talk a little bit about it at the next Morris Model meeting. where some of that will be coming along, and we can start working on some of these things for the future. I put a couple other things in here. We are still working on, iPads and a smart board for here, and that should be coming here. All the other city stuff's been done, so it's kind of where we're at now. And then we're going to start putting out information on the water treatment plant. That's nearing completion, and we have to start the process of implementing the new rates for the soft water and dealing with the chloride in the water softeners and all those kind of things. And then I put a message in there about we did find a new sergeant candidate, and the chief's vetting out the candidate right now, and so hopefully that all works out, and we'll be able to bring the new sergeant on board sometime towards the end of November. It takes a while to do all the background checks and psychological evals and all those kind of things, but I think that was a good find for us. Any questions? I'll answer any questions you might have.
Laying out on the water treatment plant, does it look like they're gonna come in on budget? And is there gonna be any surprises?
As far as I know right now, yeah, no. I mean, there was a contingency that was put into it. There's a couple things that came up that weren't necessarily completely planned. One of the big things is they're gonna recondition all the wells. When they put in well number 8, they thought they're gonna have maybe some issues with it, because there's an old farmstead that was there that they didn't know was there. But because there's nothing there. I mean, it was pasture land for the university, and but that didn't turn out to be a big problem. There's few things that are in there, but as of right now, it looks like it's on budget, and it looks like it's on time. So they should be finishing it up after the beginning of the year, and probably February, March. The one question I asked was, how soon after it's done, are we gonna switch over from the new one to the old one? As soon as they get everything done in there and they crank up and start making soft water, they'll be sending it in into the system. It's not like they're gonna try a couple batches and dump it out the back door. When they start up all the equipment, start softening, they'll put it right into the city system. And so they figured there'd probably be about a 1-2 day conversion over to the new plant, and then they'll run it for a while, and the old plant will sit there unused until it's up and running and everything's fine. They don't have any more problems with it. And then the last thing that's going to be done is demolition of the old plant on the backside.
How does that look for residents then? I mean, is there gonna be like a notice or do they even know where, those that have water softeners and?
Yeah, that's part of the information that's going to be coming out.
So there is.
So once the plant starts providing soft water, that's when residents are either going to have their softeners disconnected, or they just, like in my case, I have a water softener that's programmable. I walk downstairs and I hit the menu button and I change the hardness of the water to what the plant's going to be giving us. And we'll be able to, we'll know what that is, and we'll send out that information to everybody. But if you don't have one of those, then you're going to have to disconnect it. Or one of the things I learned is you can bypass your water softener, but we're going to be coming to you with some language for an ordinance on water softeners that's going to dictate what you do with water softeners. One of the things that we're learning through a couple different places is that it's not good practice to run your water softener if you have soft water. Because it's like, well, it's a waste of money for one to run it if you already have soft water, but it's not a good practice to be running soft water through your water softener, because potentially you could have some issues with your pipes. I talked to a couple different public works directors about that. The other thing is that, what is soft water? We're researching that a little bit, because soft water isn't 0% soft, hardness in your water. A good quality soft water is probably at the level that we're going to be providing it to you out of the plant. which is gonna be about 5 grains of hardness. So if people wanna keep a water softener, the interesting part about the whole thing is there's a perception about soft water. You know, people think it's soft or not soft, and it's really science. It's more of a scientific issue, and I think I mentioned to you before when the Germans came, they were really surprised at 2 things. One, how soft our water is, because they had a hard time cleaning the soap off their hands because the water was too soft, and that the fact that we put more things into water than just chlorine to make it safe for drinking. We put fluorides and other things to prevent pipes from corroding and stuff like that. But no, that's all going to be coming out. It's like you don't want to provide that information too far out in front, because then people forget about it, and yet at the same time we want to start making sure they understand that it's coming, and it's coming fairly soon. And as soon as you start getting soft water through your system, you may have some issues with, you know, pipes getting cleaned out a little bit, and the city's gonna have the same problem with the city pipes. But in the end, it's gonna be good for everybody, I think, to have good quality soft water.
So didn't you say then, Blaine, that we were gonna be implementing the new water rates first of the year prior to the?
That's what we're talking about doing.
Plant then.
And one of the reasons for that is we have to pay for the plant.
Right.
You know, so we make our first payment on the plant in 2019. So we have to start collecting money for that. Denco 2 will start purchasing water as soon as it's provided from the plant. That's the requirement they have from MPCA, and it looks right now that the water rate is probably gonna be, for your actual usage, it's probably gonna be about double what you have right now, but that doesn't mean your utility bill is gonna double, because your utility bill has garbage and water and sewer and actually storm water on it. So, it's coming.
I think when that comes, Blaine, I think I would like to know, well, I think the information should be available as far as how much money is that going to generate until the plant comes on, until the plant comes online. I don't know, we'll talk about it, but I think it might be a little bit of a hard sell to raise the rates because we got to pay for it, but you're not going to get the benefit, you know. So
Well, and that's, yeah.
you know, I think we need to talk about that.
So we could do 2 rate increases, and we
Right.
talked about that a little bit. As long as people understand that they're gonna get a rate, because we're not gonna raise Alberta's water rates until they start getting soft water. Denco 2 isn't gonna be buying anything until it's soft water, so they're not buying water from us now, but we could do that, you know, and that's one of the things that we've talked about is, you know, implement a rate that would generate enough money to try to, it's just complicated because there's pieces of it. You know, we know how much the debt service payments are on the water plant for 2019, so we can factor that into a rate and work it out, you know, thinking that we're gonna start selling water to Denco 2 probably in March, April timeframe, and then, like I said, Alberta doesn't have to pay for the new plant, even though they're gonna be getting the benefit of it just because of the agreement.
But they'll have an adjusted rate.
They'll have an adjusted rate for basically the operation and maintenance of the new plant. So that's what they pay for now is, you know, the making of the water and the distribution.
How long was that agreement for?
I think it's like 30 years. So, because it was tied in with the funding that they got for running the pipeline to Alberta for their water. So that was a long-term agreement.
And I guess the other thing is, you know, once the final costs are in, it would almost make more sense to, if you could, wait till then you can set the rates, so you make sure you get yourself covered, you know. And there could be some surprises, I hope there isn't, but, you know, that way you
Yeah, I
set the rate, and then all of a sudden, the final costs come in more than you anticipated. You know, once you've already set the rates, then, you know, what are you gonna do, have to go back and do the second one then?
Yeah, well, and the other thing is we've never ran one of these.
Right.
So
Right.
we don't know exactly, you know, the plan is to hire a new full-time person, but, we talked about that a little bit in our work session where, you know, part of that, we don't necessarily need another full-time person to run the water plant. We need maybe a half-time person to run the water plant, but you can't find a half-time person out there anywhere, you know, to do that kind of work. It just doesn't work that way. But at the same time, we have stormwater issues that we need to deal with, and we can fund part of that position through the stormwater administration money, and then we have to run the plant. We might find out that we need more time, we might find out we need less time. It's just, you know, we haven't done it yet.
So there may be some tweaking to the rates anyway, down annually or thereabouts anyway, but,
You never know, there could be that person out there that's, you know, semi-retired that wants a position where he doesn't want full-time.
yeah.
You just never know. We could probably advertise for it.
Yeah, but you have to find somebody that's got a license
Right.
or is willing to get a license. You know, that's one of the things. If we can't find anybody with a water wastewater license, then we'll bring somebody in and put them in an apprentice program to learn what needs to be done and to test out for a license. Jim Dittbenner has a license, Ryan has a license. I mean, it's hard to find people that are licensed nowadays to be able to run these operations.
Okay.
Good. Any other comments or questions on the city manager report? We'll move on to other business. We need to set a canvassing meeting. That either has to be done tomorrow or Thursday. And it doesn't have to be done at 5. We could do it at noon. We could do it whatever time we want to. 5 on Wednesday would not work well for me, but Thursday is the Parade of Lights, so it would be it'll be a very short canvassing meeting anyway, wouldn't it?
Really short. You're just gonna come in and
Yeah.
look at the results, pass a resolution approving them. So
Yeah.
you're gonna take
But it would be an official action of the council. We would need a quorum. So we could do it Thursday at noon. We could do it tomorrow at noon. We could do it tomorrow at 5 or Thursday at 5. Those really are the times. Parade of Lights is Thursday night, so that's at 6 o'clock. It needs at least 3 of us.
I could do it tomorrow night at 5. I can't do midday, because I'm already on the county canvassing board tomorrow at 10.
Okay, I was wondering when that was.
It's tomorrow.
That's
Yeah,
tomorrow?
I'm on that one. And I do have to work sometime.
That's overrated.
I'm pretty free anytime. I think Thursday at 5 would probably, I got another meeting at 5, but I could do noon, I can do whatever time.
Oh,
Works
you
for
guys
anybody.
could do-
Okay.
Yes, you could.
Kim?
I can't do any of that.
You can't do any of them. You're gonna be out at, no.
I have to work Thursday night as well, and then tomorrow I have another meeting at 5.
Okay.
So unless it's-
Jeff,
What
I
did the
would,
canvassing board get done?
Well, that shouldn't take, same thing.
Where are you doing that?
Up the county
at the courthouse.
commissioner's office there.
Yeah.
Will we do it tomorrow at like 10?
No. You're gonna be there about an hour, I think.
You think it takes that long?
Mm,
I suppose you could probably plan on that.
yeah. I know the primary one didn't take that long, but I think the other one, the general election, I think takes a little longer. It might be a little less than that, but
If you knew when it was gonna be done, I mean, we could do it right after that, that's fine. I don't have that big of a schedule tomorrow, but, so I mean, I'm a little bit flexible that way.
would noon work?
Works for me. I mean, I could do it.
I'm sure noon you'd be done up there. I'd hate to say 11 and you're not done.
Okay?
Because we would kind of depend on you,
You want to-
is
I'm sure Jeff will be out of town.
Jeff would be out of town. Yeah.
You want to do it here at noon tomorrow?
Yeah.
We can just do it in the back room of City Hall.
Oh, that would work too.
I'll be there.
I'll try to make it work.
Noon, okay. So I'll make a motion that we have a canvassing meeting Wednesday, November 14th at noon at City Hall.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Increase in 2019 solid waste disposal fees. We had a letter from Jeannie Ennin.
Yeah, so the county has a contract for disposal of solid waste. And so basically, effective January 1, then our garbage rates will go up about 20 cents per month. We have bi-monthly, so it's 40 cents on your bill. That's just for the tipping fee. So there's really not much we can do about it.
So this is just kind of a notice
Yeah, they
that
just give us notice.
this is what we're doing.
In our agreement, it talks about what the costs were, but then it says unless it's changed by the county, which, because they have the agreement with the hauler to take the solid waste. But that's a good example of, so you see in this notice that we were informed by Pope Douglas that they're gonna raise their rates 4%. That's for the incinerator, and then the rest of our garbage goes out to Gwinner, North Dakota. You know, and depending on, you know, what happens there will dictate how much we wind up spending hauling our garbage out there. But this is a good example of something that we want to look at for the future.
Okay. Any, we don't need to act on this or
No.
recognize it, it's just information.
We don't have any choice.
We have Morris Police Department media reports for 3 weeks. Anything else to bring before the meeting? Okay, meeting adjourned.